welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. I'm Pastor Silvano Barbosa, and today I'm going to talk to Pastor Rick McEdward. He is the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church for the Middle East and also for the north of Africa. He lives in Beirut, just 4 kilometers away from the place where the massive explosion took place. So Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and for having this conversation with us.
It's a joy to be with you. Thank you for inviting me, Silvano.
All right. So Rick, would you please describe the situation for us at this moment?
Well, right now, it's about almost exactly 48 hours since the massive explosion rocked Beirut. And since that time, we've had a lot of different information come out. So information has been conflicting. There's been a lot of rumors and stuff. But right now, we know that in the background, right where I'm standing, just a few kilometers away, was this massive explosion that most of our viewers will have seen through social media or through the news. And that this was somehow a fireworks storage next to an agricultural storage that set off this chemical reaction. And that virtually in the area closest to the explosion site, that almost nothing remained standing. All the windows were blown out and many of the buildings were struck. Some of them were devastated. So in the zone immediately around the destruction site, the explosion site, there is what we call a Category 2 disaster. And all around the world, ADRA offices are contacting us, and we are treating this as would a natural disaster, although we could say this in some ways is a man-made disaster because it's chemicals. But all around us, and so there are people, many Lebanese, who are going through and to really address the situation personally with their own efforts, with cleaning up, helping neighbors. Our team here has been heavily involved in offering services and cleaning up churches and schools, etc. And it's really a joy to see the amount of love being expressed through the people of Lebanon to each other. Now, right. I want to just mention one other thing.
Yes, go ahead.
This comes in the backdrop of 9 months of economic, political, and social chaos in this country. And over the last few months, the currency here in Lebanon, which we call the lira or the pound, has devalued about 80%. There have been routine demonstrations. Even one of the governments resigned early on several months ago. And there's been heavy pressure. And then came the coronavirus, COVID crisis. So the lockdown and the banks that had been closed during the political crisis closed again, and many people couldn't go to work. So little by little, Lebanon has been thrown into chaos. And then 2 days ago, this massive explosion that was one of the largest explosions in an urban area in the last maybe 100 years.
All right. And what do you expect the consequences of this situation will be in the following months in the city of Beirut and also in Lebanon?
Well, we have heard that as a result of this, 300,000 people became homeless overnight. Now, Beirut, for those of you who have looked at it, went through a period of time where there was a terrible civil war, but it ended about 20 years ago. And after that, the city has rebuilt beautifully. It has become a really desirable place to live. But 300,000 people just had their homes destroyed with this explosion. So this is one problem, rebuilding of homes, schools. One of the largest hospitals that services the country of Lebanon was 80% destroyed with the explosion. So we see that key services to the community, one of the critical care units, etc., have been destroyed. Houses have been destroyed. The major granaries that store food for the country were destroyed. So we think that there will be many different consequences that will evolve in different ways. Fortunately, the world community is responding but we don't know what that response will look like at this time.
What are some of the answers, the responses that the church is planning on offering to the population as a response to this situation?
Well, our first response was to go out and beginning cleaning and to assess the damage, and we've done all of that. Now our team is working very diligently on the ground to meet community leaders, to assess the greater community issues, and then to partner church and ADRA together to offer services where needs actually exist. So right now we are in the initial phase of a disaster response, but actually speaking, we are looking for where the gaps are in services. For instance, one of the response crews needed a generator and places for their crews to rest, and ADRA has stepped in and provided some of those things. So we are in this process of assessment, and out of this assessment will come a period of time where we can communicate to the world the needs, write some proposals, get funding, and that's really, if I can say, on the ADRA side, but our church, our union, is directly supporting how ADRA responds. And we believe that the church will be supporting all of these efforts to relieve suffering humanity here in Lebanon.
Okay. And Rick, of course, the church members and the institutions of the church has been affected by this tragedy too.
Yeah.
So has it been possible for the church to assess the damage at this point?
We have already done a full assessment of all the damage. We had one of our churches, one of our schools that had fairly significant damage. Fortunately, at this point, we can say it was not structural damage. It was destroying a lot of the windows. One of our churches, 22 windows got blown out. And so there's a level of damage in that. We have had similar damage in one of the schools nearby because it seemed to be in the pathway of the force of the impact. Our university here on campus has lost a substantial amount of windows and things. So there's doors, windows, ceilings, all of this kind of stuff that were blown during the impact of the blast. We are very grateful to God for the fact that none of our workers or our members have been affected, but that puts a responsibility on us to serve those who have been affected the most. Now, we do know that some of those who are friends of the church, some of those who are being helped at our center of influence that was badly affected as well. So some of these have been injured, and we're looking at how to help those needs. But we're trying our best to go in circles of our influence in natural pathways to say, how can we help you? How can we help you clean up? How can we help you repair? Because our church is here to be light and salt during a time of difficulty.
Amen. And how many church members and institutions of the church are there in Beirut?
You know, I wish I could say it was much stronger. Over the many years during the Civil War, many of our church members here in Beirut actually migrated because of the tremendous pressure on Christians in this region. We do have two large schools in Beirut that are primary and secondary, and those are serving a very diverse audience. One is in a primarily Muslim community in West Beirut, and one is in here on this side in East Beirut and serves a Christian community. So we have many students who attend these schools. These schools have been affected in other ways because of the coronavirus and economic crisis. But so those schools, we have 3 or 4 churches in the area of Beirut. When I say 3 or 4, Middle East University, and one of the churches at each of the schools. And then we have a couple other groups that meet. One of them is a center of influence that serves refugee community. And that center of influence is a beautiful expression of God's love to refugees to help students. And some of those students have had family members who have been injured in this crisis.
If anyone here in Brazil is willing to help at this moment, what should they do?
You know, that's a really good question. It's a compassionate one. And I'll be honest with you, the South America division has been such a significant partner in blessing the Middle East North Africa Union that our first thing is to say thank you for all that South America has already done. And in fact, the leadership of South America has already reached out to us and have offered some support in this particular crisis. So I would say, first of all, support your local churches through the routine mechanisms of tithes and offerings and support. If there's extra beyond that, that somebody wants to connect with, ADRA Brazil is offering to connect with us here. And that would be a very appropriate way of donating to the needs here through ADRA Brazil. And other than that, our greatest need is the support and encouragement of our world church through prayer and God blessing our efforts. We really want to do our best to touch the people of this country. And we want to do it with our whole hearts. And we appreciate the partnership of the world church that has been so significant in helping us to do our outreach in the best possible way.
All right. And just for us to finish now, Rick, I just would like to know if this crisis will change your vision for the church in Lebanon in any way.
Well, I can't say it changes the long-term vision, but it certainly changes the way we will approach the vision. Our vision is to share the love of God faithfully with every person in this country through practical ways, through sharing the Word of God, through our teaching and through studies and through media. But over the last few days, when so many people have expressed needs, it changes the manner that we are able to deliver, because somehow people's hearts are in shock. And now we are able to develop relationships by giving practical help, by addressing needs without any pressure, without any strings attached, but just to say, we're here, we're the Adventists, and we want to help. And so through that mechanism, the doors are now open for us to help in other ways. And we don't want to abuse that help. We just want to reveal God's love in every way we can. So yes, it accelerates and changes the delivery of the vision we have. But God's vision is clear. Prepare every person for the time when Jesus will come again.
Rick, thank you very much once again for taking the time to talk to us. I know you are very busy with your team in the middle of this situation, trying to do as best as you guys can to support the city and the church members and also the institutions of the church. So thank you very much for taking the time, and we will keep you and all your team in our prayers in Brazil.
Thank you so much, Silvano, and God bless you in your ministry there, and our appreciation to you and all of South America.
Okay. Thank you and God bless.
God bless.